Every journey begins with a boarding pass. But sometimes, that thin piece of paper carries far more than a seat number. It carries assumptions, judgments, and the silent weight of prejudice. On this flight, what should have been a routine trip will unravel into a confrontation that shakes the entire cabin. This is where our story begins. Late afternoon sunlight spilled through the giant glass panels of Skylux International Airport, flooding the marble floors with golden streaks. Travelers rushed in every direction, wheels of suitcases clicking like hurried metronomes. Amid this chaos walked Dr. Maya Caldwell, tall, graceful, and calm. At 42, she was already a legend in aerospace engineering, the CEO of Etherian Systems, a company that quietly reshaped modern aviation. She wasn't a celebrity, but in boardrooms and government offices, her name commanded respect. Her boarding folder bore the words, Seat 1A, First Class. Nearly $5,000 for the ticket, purchased through the airline's executive line. For Maya, it was a small expense compared to the billion-dollar deal she was flying to secure. At the gate stood Veronica Steele, the lead flight attendant. Immaculate uniform, blonde hair perfectly sculpted, lips pressed into something that pretended to be a smile. "Excuse me, ma'am," Veronica said, hand extended like a barrier. "This line is for first-class passengers only." Maya handed over her ticket, tone measured. "I am a first-class passenger." Veronica's eyes flicked down, then up, scanning not the boarding pass but Maya's skin, her neatly tied curls, the quiet authority in her posture. "Seat 1A?" she asked, brows raised. "Are you sure this is correct?" The pause was just long enough to sting. A couple of people in line leaned forward, curious. Whispers stirred. "You don't exactly look like someone we usually see in 1A, Veronica murmured, voice low but edged. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't even loud. But the words sliced through the air like broken glass, a statement that questioned not just her seat, but her very right to be there. Maya steadied her breathing. Years of being underestimated in boardrooms had trained her well. She placed her passport and ID on top of the ticket. "My name is Dr. Maya Caldwell. And yes, this is my seat." Veronica gave a brittle laugh and pushed the boarding pass back against Maya's chest. "Coach is that way," she whispered, tilting her head toward the rear of the plane. "You might feel more comfortable." Around them, the tension thickened. Some passengers averted their eyes. Others raised their phones, pretending to check messages, but angling their cameras toward the scene. Maya didn't move, didn't flinch. She simply met Veronica's gaze with silent strength. Power doesn't rush. Power waits. Finally, she stepped past and pulled her suitcase down the jet bridge. Inside the cabin, luxury wrapped around her, plush cream leather, soft amber lighting, the faint scent of citrus and polish. She stored her carry-on above seat 1A, smoothed her blazer, and sat. Across the aisle, Veronica leaned toward another attendant, whispering. Both of them glanced quickly at Maya, then looked away when they realized she had noticed. Maya unlocked her phone and typed, "Boarded. Incident at the gate. Keep legal team on alert." She hit send, tucked the phone away, and folded her hands in her lap. Around her, the murmurs hadn't stopped. A businessman in 2C pulled out his phone, casually pointing the lens in her direction. A young woman in 3B flipped through her Kindle too quickly, betraying nerves. The air felt heavy, charged. Maya sat tall, unmoving, her presence radiating composure. She knew the truth. A story was already being written around her without her permission. A dangerous, false story. But she also knew something else. Stories built on bias eventually collapse. And when they did, she would still be here, calm, ready, undeniable. The flight hadn't even taken off, yet the cabin had already become a stage. A reckoning was coming. The cabin hummed with the steady drone of the engines, but the air felt heavy. Dr. Maya Caldwell sat tall in her seat, calm yet burning inside as the chief flight attendant, Veronica Steele, lingered with a clipboard in hand. "Ma'am," Veronica said smoothly, but with a sharp undertone, "this section is reserved. Are you sure you're in the right place?" Maya's voice was steady. "Yes, seat 1A, business elite. My boarding pass is correct." Passengers stirred. A young woman in 3B stopped reading, her eyes wide with unease. 2 rows ahead, a businessman angled his phone discreetly, smirking as he recorded. Veronica pressed, her words dripping with implication. "These seats are exclusive. Many passengers assume they're entitled to them." Silence. All eyes turned to Maya. "Entitlement isn't achievement," she replied, cool and precise, "and I've achieved enough to sit here without question." The businessman chuckled. "This is gold," he muttered, his phone still rolling. The student in 3B wanted to speak up, but froze, shame burning behind her silence. Veronica's mask slipped. "For security reasons, I'll need to verify this with the captain." "Security?" Maya arched a brow. "Do I look like a threat to you?" The cabin buzzed with whispers. Veronica leaned closer, her shadow looming. "You'll have to come with me, Dr. Caldwell." Maya inhaled, calm but resolute. "No, I will not be moved from the seat I paid for." And in that moment, the plane seemed to hold its breath, every passenger waiting to see what would break first, the silence or the storm. The cabin was no longer just a plane. It felt like a courtroom in the sky. Every breath, every glance, every whispered word carried weight. Veronica Steele straightened her uniform, her voice sharp enough to slice the silence. "Dr. Caldwell, this is your last warning. Come with me, or I'll call security the moment we land." Maya did not flinch. Her calm presence filled the space like armor. "You can call whoever you want. But I will not be humiliated simply because you cannot imagine me belonging here." Her words spread through the cabin like electricity. The businessman in 2C chuckled quietly, his phone angled to catch every second. His smirk said what his lips didn't. "This will go viral." But then, an unexpected voice trembled from the back. The young student in 3B rose halfway from her seat. Her hands shook, but her voice, though soft, carried courage. "She's right. I saw her ticket. It says 1A. You shouldn't treat her this way." The whole cabin turned. Veronica's eyes narrowed, ready to shut down the witness. But the damage was done. The illusion of control cracked. Murmurs rippled among the other passengers, small at first, then louder. Voices questioning, voices siding with Maya. Maya's gaze swept the aisle, steady and unbroken. She hadn't raised her voice once, yet the tide was turning. For the first time, Veronica looked uncertain, her rigid posture softening, her words faltering. The businessman kept recording, now sensing the real drama. Not humiliation, but resistance. And resistance, in that moment, was winning. The airplane air was heavy with tension, but beneath it all, something stronger stirred. Solidarity. The cabin had become a stage, its audience no longer passive. Every passenger was tuned to the rising drama, the tension as heavy as the recycled air they breathed. Phones hovered discreetly above armrests, glowing lenses capturing history in real time. Veronica Steele, still standing tall in her crisp uniform, pulled herself tighter, as if to stitch her authority back together. Her voice sharpened. "This is your last chance, Dr. Caldwell. Comply, or face removal when we land." Her tone was colder than before, but beneath it trembled something unexpected. Doubt. Maya rose slowly from her seat. She did not rush, nor did she look rattled. Each movement was deliberate, dignified. The navy of her suit shimmered under the cabin lights, giving her a quiet aura of command. Her diamond earrings caught the glow like subtle sparks. Gasps murmured through the cabin. The businessman in 2C leaned forward, angling his phone for the best shot. His smirk widened, but there was unease in his eyes. He had come for spectacle, yet the spectacle now seemed less about humiliation, more about revelation. Maya's voice was calm but firm, every syllable cutting through the air. "I have complied with every rule, every regulation. What I refuse is degradation. If your uniform gives you power, then use it responsibly. But do not mistake cruelty for authority." The words carried farther than she expected. A ripple moved through the passengers, nods, whispers, even a few soft, "She's right," from scattered rows. In 3B, the young woman clutched her Kindle tighter, her knuckles pale, but her courage bloomed. She stood halfway, her voice trembling yet clear. I saw her boarding pass. She belongs in 1A. You shouldn't treat her like this." All eyes shifted. The trembling voice had struck a blow no recording device could mute. It was truth, spoken with innocence. Veronica's composure cracked. Her lips pressed thin, her eyes narrowed, but the weight of a dozen cameras, of witnesses shifting against her, pressed harder. She turned to see the businessman still recording, his grin faltering as passengers whispered louder. Someone muttered, "She's targeting her." Another, "Unbelievable." The courtroom in the sky had found its jury, and Veronica felt herself on trial. Maya did not move closer. She did not need to. Her presence filled the aisle with quiet defiance. She spoke again, her voice like a verdict. Respect is not negotiable. It is not a privilege you grant when you approve of someone. It is a right. The silence after was louder than shouting. Even the engines seemed muted. Veronica shifted uncomfortably, her hands tightening into fists at her side. But she didn't speak. Not yet. The businessman zoomed in one last time, his recording catching her hesitation. He thought he was documenting another internet drama. Instead, he had captured a turning point. The young woman sat back down, her hands trembling, but her eyes steadier now, as if courage had left a permanent mark. The passengers were no longer neutral. They were witnesses, and the power Veronica had clung to so tightly was slipping through her perfectly manicured fingers. The breaking point had arrived. The cabin air was heavy with silence, broken only by the faint hum of the engines. Veronica Steele stood frozen, her clipboard trembling in her grip. For the first time, her usual mask of authority looked fragile, almost cracked under the weight of dozens of watchful eyes. Dr. Maya Caldwell did not raise her voice, nor did she move with aggression. Instead, she stood firm, her calm presence spreading like an anchor in stormy seas. Her words, measured, deliberate, still lingered in the air. Respect is not negotiable. From across the aisle, the businessman in 2C lowered his phone slightly. The smirk that had been plastered on his face now seemed misplaced, awkward, as though he realized he was no longer recording drama, but a reckoning. The glow of countless screens still framed the aisle, but the mood had shifted. It was no longer spectacle. It was testimony. The young woman in 3B, cheeks flushed with the adrenaline of her sudden bravery, sat back down. Yet her quiet words echoed louder than the noise of any engine. I saw her ticket. She belongs here. She clutched her Kindle tightly, as if it were a shield. But in truth, she had become one of Maya's strongest allies in that moment. Passengers began to murmur, not with ridicule or mockery, but with agreement. A nod here, a whispered, "She's right," there. The tide had turned, and Veronica felt it crashing against her like an invisible wave. Her eyes darted to the emergency call button at her side, then back to the faces staring her down. For years, she had controlled the narrative in the cabin. Her word had been final. But now, for the first time, her authority seemed hollow, stripped bare by truth and solidarity. Maya did not gloat. She did not smile triumphantly. Instead, she offered something far more disarming: dignity. She adjusted the cuff of her blazer, her calm gaze locked on Veronica. "This isn't just about me. It's about everyone here who's ever been treated as less." The words landed like a verdict. Phones kept recording. No one looked away. And in that silence, Veronica Steele had to make a choice: double down on arrogance or step back from the pedestal she had built. This story reminds us of one essential lesson. In moments of injustice or silence, courage can come from the least expected voices. No title, no uniform, no wealth defines true integrity. It's our actions that speak louder. Thank you for staying with us until the end. If this journey inspired you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so that more people can reflect on its message. Together, let's keep learning, growing, and standing up for what is right. See you in the next video, take care, and thank you for watching.